Sketchy NBA draft moments. Throughout my years on YouTube, I haven't gone down the conspiracy path that often anymore. In fact, the first videos to blow up on my channel were all conspiracy or mystery-related videos. But it's been a long time since I've touched topics like these. Today, it's time to revisit. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at the most sketchy NBA draft moments ever. From questionable lottery results to former players knowing the results before it happened, we've seen a lot of sketchy moments through the decades. And they make us wonder, is there something the NBA isn't telling us? Of course, it doesn't mean the NBA is rigged, but sometimes a coincidence might be too convenient to be just a coincidence, as you'll see in this video. Anyway, let's get started. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. If you like the content, drop a sub or a like, and thank you so much for the support. Number 7. Dikembe Mutombo can predict the future. You know how every year there's a lottery draw? Representatives from every team are there in hopes of their own team getting some good luck in the draw. From what they tell us, it's a live event. However, before the 2016 lottery took place, Dikembe Mutombo tweeted this. He said this 4 hours before the lottery even happened. Now, the Sixers did indeed have the best chance of getting the number 1 pick at 25%, but that's still far from a guarantee. Of course, the media took this and ran with it. The NBA draft has always been a hotbed of conspiracy theories, and this reinforced those theories even more. The fact that a former Sixers player, who wasn't even part of the organization anymore, knew that they won the number 1 pick hours before the lottery took place, that's kinda sketchy. Lo and behold, the Sixers did in fact win the number 1 pick in the lottery. When asked about how he knew about this beforehand, Mutombo stated, "I want to let people know there was no conspiracy. It was like maybe 30 seconds, then I realized, whoa, what did I do here? But it was too late. It was out in the air." However, he also said his tweet was a simple mistake. He claimed the Sixers emailed him a congratulatory message for him to tweet if the Sixers won the lottery. But instead, Mutombo did not read the email correctly, so he posted the message immediately, before the lottery took place. It's also possible that the organizations around the league know the results of the lottery before the drawing happens. But then, that would mean it's not a live lottery, which the NBA claims it is. That's the whole point of having the lottery on national television. What do you guys think? Do you think it was just a coincidence and Mutombo made a simple mistake? Or did the NBA inform the Sixers beforehand that they'd win the draw? Normally, I would think Mutombo made a simple mistake and misread the email, but then something similar happened a year later. This brings us to number 6, Magic Johnson already knew. In 2017, that summer was filled with endless headlines about Lonzo Ball. At least, that's what the LA media was talking about. Lonzo was making waves as a top-tier prospect. His father, LeVar, was bouncing across numerous television networks to talk about how good his son is, and even compared him to Steph Curry and Magic Johnson himself. Yeah, you remember that? That was basically the entire 2017 offseason for LA. However, there was a moment that stood out. It was a quote from Luke Walton, weeks before the lottery. "Magic's already ensured me that we're gonna get our top 3 pick this year, so I'm excited about that. We don't know who the pick is yet, but I was just happy to know that we are getting a pick. That's good enough for me for now." Once again, just like Mutombo's tweet, there was literally no indication that the Lakers were going to get a top 3 pick. Walton said that 2 weeks before the day of the lottery. How did Magic know? Statistically, the Lakers only had a 46.9% chance of their pick being in the top 3, a 53.1% chance of falling out of the top 3. So how can Magic guarantee that? Also, this pick was only top 3 protected, so if it fell out of the top 3, they would lose their pick and it would be sent back to Philly. The fact that Magic knew their pick would be top 3 weeks in advance, yeah, that seems kind of fishy, don't you think? Especially with the way Walton said that. He seemed so sure of it. Number 5, the Cavs' ridiculous luck. In 2011, the Cavs had a 2.8% chance of getting the first pick. They actually had 2 lottery picks that year, but the one that landed first was the pick they got from the Clippers, and that was only a 2.8% chance. The other pick landed at number 4, which they used to draft Tristan Thompson. In 2013, they had a 15.6% chance, which is fairly reasonable, although still a surprise they got it again. However, in 2014, with a 1.7% chance, the Cavs once again won the lottery. Okay, now this is getting a bit too out of hand. There were conspiracies in 2011 that the league granted the Cavs the first pick because they felt bad they lost LeBron for nothing. In fact, the odds of the Cavs getting the first pick in all 3 of those years was 1,493 to 1. No team in NBA history has had this kind of luck in the lottery before. If you consider the circumstances surrounding this, with 2010 being LeBron's departure and 2014 being LeBron's return, it's starting to look sketchy. The time period seems way too convenient. While 2011 was a huge topic of debate, it was the 2014 lottery that caught my attention. In the 2014 offseason, LeBron returned to Cleveland, and coincidentally, the Cavs got the first pick with just a 1.7% chance. What's even more convenient is that the Cavs needed this pick in order to trade for Kevin Love, who LeBron wanted on the team. Did LeBron somehow predict the Cavs' 1.7% chance would win the first pick, and told them he'd only return if they made the trade for Love? Here's the timeline of events. In May, the NBA lottery was broadcasted, with the Cavs winning the first pick. In June, the NBA draft commenced, with the Cavs drafting Wiggins. In July, LeBron announced his return to Cleveland. In August, Wiggins got traded to Minnesota for Kevin Love. So basically, let's say the Cavs did not get the first pick. They likely would not be able to trade for Love. This means LeBron probably would not return, as he preferred to play with another star. He made that very clear. Or did the league already know LeBron would sign with Cleveland long before he announced it, and purposely give the first pick to the Cavs so they can acquire Love, so LeBron can return and immediately play alongside 2 other superstars? I mean, that's a great homecoming story, and the NBA loves these kind of stories. But it just seems so unlikely for all of this to happen in a perfect timeline, unless something was going on behind the scenes. Number 4, the New Orleans Gambit. In 2012, the New Orleans Hornets were temporarily owned by the NBA itself. They needed to find a new owner, and they had trouble in doing so. This left them in an awkward position. You can't really have a team owned by the league because there might be a conflict of interest. We saw that a year prior, when David Stern vetoed the Chris Paul trade. However, the bigger controversy came in the 2012 NBA draft. Of course, immediately, fans around the league thought this was sketchy. If this lottery was rigged, it would make sense, if you think about it. The NBA needed to find a new owner willing to buy the team, and what better way to entice buyers than to throw in a number 1 pick with it, for a chance to have a generational superstar. Tom Benson agreed to purchase the team a month before the lottery happened. So what if they had an under-the-table agreement to grant him the number 1 pick, to encourage him to buy the team? Keep in mind, the NBA at this point has been trying for 2 years to sell the team, doing renovations in the stadium, trying to advertise the team to increase its season ticket holder base, but to no avail. Their revenue numbers were pitiful. Maybe they had no other choice but to grant Benson the first pick as the final incentive. That year, Anthony Davis was the consensus number 1 pick, and the only guy in the draft who scouts believed was superstar material. That would definitely make the sale of the Hornets a lot easier. To add more fuel onto this conspiracy, the Hornets were literally the only team that moved up in the lottery. I mean, just look at this. Every other team either stayed in the same spot or fell lower than their projected odds. This makes it look a lot worse. Number 3, Derrick Rose, the Bulls' savior. Up until 2008, the Bulls were struggling in the post-MJ era. After a bunch of botched rebuilds, they needed a fresh new start. Chicago's incompetence also damaged the league as a whole. The amount of basketball interest was massive, but it was slowly waning, as the team could not put out a good product on the floor. Having Chicago, a massive market and revenue base, performing this poorly was not good for the NBA. So with a 1.7% chance, the Bulls won the lottery. Also, like the Hornets, they were also the only team that moved up in the lottery, by a whopping 8 spots. No other team moved up except for them, which always makes it more suspicious. Derrick Rose was a hometown hero, so it's in the NBA's best interest for a Chicago native to represent Chicago, who desperately needed a superstar. Number 2, let's help Shaq. In the 1993 offseason, the Orlando Magic just came off a pleasant surprise season. They went 41-41 with a rookie Shaquille O'Neal looking like he was on the rise. Then, with a mere 1.5% chance of winning the lottery, it happened. The Magic got the first pick, again. Even to this day, that 1.5% chance was the lowest chance in NBA history for a team to win the lottery. There was also speculation that the league wanted the young upstart franchise to succeed. At that point, the Magic franchise was only a few years old, and seeing a young superstar like Shaq succeed in a prominent city like Orlando would be a great story for a brand new team. Afterwards, with complaints by so many other organizations, the NBA actually changed their lottery process because this was so controversial back in the day. And everyone was pointing fingers at the league for rigging it in favor of their new darling expansion team. And finally, at number 1, the envelope. You might have seen this before, but here's the gist of it. In 1985, the NBA held their first ever draft lottery. But instead of ping pong balls, envelopes were used to choose the draft order. A guy named Jack Wagner was in charge of putting the envelopes into the plastic ball. But when he got to the Knicks envelope, he unmistakably banged the corner of it, and you can see a visible crease. Some believed Wagner was able to identify the Knicks envelope because it was placed in a freezer before the lottery, so he knew which envelope to crease. So when David Stern starts pulling out the envelopes, he can easily identify the Knicks one. It was also peculiar because the way Wagner threw it into the ball was really careless. He was very careful with the other envelopes. To add even more layers to this theory, Jack Wagner was from an accounting firm named Ernst & Whitney. It was the firm that represented the Knicks ownership group at the time. This is way too much than just a coincidence. As stated by Chris Ballard of Sports Illustrated, there were a lot of incentives for Patrick Ewing to land in New York. Quote, "If there was a perfect landing spot for Ewing, it was New York, the league's biggest market." Now, the NBA's 4-year, $91.9 million TV deal with CBS was set to expire after the season. Ewing in Sacramento did not move the TV needle, but Ewing in the Big Apple? There is a strong feeling among league officials and television advertising executives that the NBA will benefit most if Ewing winds up in a Knicks uniform. And that's all, folks. Those were 7 of the most sketchy NBA draft moments ever. Of course, those are the only ones that look sketchy on the surface, but there's so much we don't know about that goes on behind the scenes. Which ones do you think were most likely to be rigged? How many of you think none of them are rigged, and all of this is just a bunch of conspiracy nonsense? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.